Yeah, thank you everyone, and thank you for attending here today, and thank you for inviting me here to the SAFETY4SEA conference. As shortly said, I'm the head of loss prevention at Britania P&I. I always get the question, where are you from? Because people can't really identify my name. I'm from Denmark, so now I'll save you that question. I have a seafaring background from Maersk, not surprisingly come from Denmark. 90% of our seafarers come from Maersk. And then later on, I've been working at flag states, ship management, etc. before I joined Britannia like 6 years ago. And now I'm the head of loss prevention based in London. So I've been invited here today to talk about safety culture, safety leadership, which in itself are two massive topics. It will probably take 2 days or something like to talk about it, and there's books out there which are like 1,000 pages thick about how to do safety culture and all these kind of things. I have 12 minutes, so do bear with me. I'm only going to scratch the surface. You're welcome to read those 1,000-page books if you want to. I'm not sure they're going to provide so much. You probably fell asleep in them, but it's a massive topic that just can't be, cut down to very short. It takes a lot of efforts as well. I think what to note here from the start of the morning was the talk about safety. Is safety neglected these days due to all these environmental decarbonization? Well, in my personal view and what I see is, yes, it seems to be. I've talked with a lot of people where safety departments have even been a bit cut down. There used to be maybe 6 people doing safety. Now there's 4, because 2 of them have to do sustainability or environmental stuff as well. So my message is, safety is always the main priority, period. It cannot be neglected. You cannot have a green transition without safety being a priority. Because safety is not just about hand injuries, personal safety as well. It's also about safe operation of your equipment and all these kind of new alternative fuels that are coming in. Well, some say they might not be as pollutant when it comes to emissions, but they definitely have other risks as well. So there's tons of safety aspects also when it comes to that. Also, I guess a lot of you also have a lot of sustainability work you do these days. You issue your annual sustainability reports. We do the same. Lots of them, when you look at them, it's a lot about the environmental stuff, but sustainability is not just environment, it's also safety. You have ESG, environmental, social, which include the safety aspects as well, and the welfare of your seafarers. So safety, still a very big priority, even though of course, decarbonization, green transition is a major, major challenge for the industry, something we have to overcome, something we have to work upon, but it can never be under compromising the safety as well. Okay, that was separate one, but back to the safety culture. Basically, what is a safety culture? There's tons of definitions out there about what it may be. I just brought one here, which is quite a simple one, which is basically like how we do business. It's not about, having the biggest safety management system, most comprehensive, most systems, all these kind of stuff as well. It's all about, in a perfect world, you shouldn't really need checklists, you shouldn't need your SMS, because it's basically in the mindset of your seafarers about how to do things, and this is just how we do it basically, and how we do it safely. So, but obviously, there is a lot of requirements out there to have the paper, the documentation in place, which can benefit, obviously, because your safety management system obviously should be a dynamic system, which reflects all the time the learnings you've done through time. Obviously, that's the one about continuous improvement. So every time you have an incident or something else, obviously you update your system accordingly. And obviously, when you get new people, it's a good way for them to try to gain the learning as well from it. So I'm not saying get rid of all the paper, all the kind of things, but obviously it needs to be a balance to make sure that, of course, the good old basic things I've mentioned before, like seamanship, remains the priority as well. So some of the key elements of safety culture, I think, is quite straightforward. Obviously, the good old leadership commitment comes from the top. You have to be a good example and all these kind of things. But there's also certain aspects that comes from the bottom up as well. So it's not always just top down, it's also bottom up as well. Open communication, I think that comes by itself, but then something I'll come back to later, which is one of my key elements, is crew empowerment. It's something that's extremely important, and if someone asks me what keeps me up at night, it's definitely the lack of crew empowerment aboard ships. I'll get back to that in a later slide as well. Just culture, positive reinforcement, and then obviously physical and mental well-being. Very hot topic before COVID. It became extremely hot topic during COVID, and afterwards it's still remained the same. Maybe it's not COVID, even though we still see some jurisdictions who still have limitation on crew who cannot go ashore because due to COVID restrictions, which even though COVID is gone, they just seem to have forgotten to raise those or lift those bans. Maybe because it's more convenient for them to not allow them ashore, but obviously there's a lot of aspects to it as well. And then later on, of course, now you have a lot of geopolitical crises around the world. It seems to be one taking after another. So again, all this goes on to the mental well-being of the seafarers, and I think almost it goes without saying, a mental unfit seafarer cannot be safe operation as well. There's a clear impact between the two as well. So that is two of the key points. And then, as it was also mentioned by the first presentation today in Fleet about KPIs, we hear that a lot about KPIs. It's all green. We have the best culture because, you know, see LTI, LTIF, all these shortening kind of thing, they're so low. That means our culture is just unique. We are the best. Are you? Well, you might be, but it also shows very often from our own past experience as a surveyor and an auditor that if you have a bad safety culture, you also have a lack of reporting, meaning your KPIs don't really show very much. It might show you don't have anything. So from an auditor perspective, if it's all green, that's normally red flags for me. So KPIs, you know, you need to measure, that's fine, and also look improvement, all that kind of stuff, but there's so many factors in between, the influential factors that influence the KPI that needs to be looked at as well. So it may be, again, the mental well-being. It wouldn't show that much in a KPI, but again, it's something that you need to be addressed. Safety leadership. I think this is quite basic stuff. Obviously, you know, leaders are behaviors, good attitude, all these kind of things. It's not just officers that need to be leaders. I think when I started at sea, it was a bit like the officer is the leader, the ratings just do what they're told. They don't have any kind of empowerment or anything at all. So everything had to come from the top down. Obviously, that is fairly difficult. Of course, as an officer, you cannot be everywhere. You have to look into things, but that is where the attitude comes in, that of course it's not just from the top and down again. How to achieve it? Again, I totally agree with the back to basics, seaman skill and all that, but soft skill is also an important factor today. When I started sailing again, I don't want to bore you with all my old sailing stories, but back then, I would say the captains, chief engineers I met definitely had zero soft skills, none at all. They're probably great seafarers, but if you went to them with a mental problem or anything, they'll just look at you. It was very much a macho culture, which is still there, which is another, I think, another challenge for the industry to change that as well. Also because now, luckily, we also see more women at sea as well. Back then, it was all men, and to be honest, soft skill was not a priority at that time as well. Safety, a partnership, of course, it's been said before, you don't do it alone. And then it's all about how kind of leaders you have. There's both the positional leader and the inspirational leader. The positional leader is the guy telling you what to do. You go paint the deck. Okay, I do that. The inspirational leader is, of course, a bit in the word, more inspiral. He soft skills, he talks with them, knows how to motivate and all these kind of stuff as well. So obviously, people say, oh, the second guy, the inspirational leader, that's the guy we need. Well, not really. You again need to find a balance, because obviously when you have emergencies aboard your ship, then you can't just sit in a round circle and all have the inputs and raise up your hands, what should we do about the fire? Then obviously you need leaders who can say, you do this, you do that, X, Y, Z. So one or the other, they go together, they accompany together these kind of leader kind of ships. It's not one or the other that needs to be in. And of course, again, with all the soft skills, there's things like Like I said, empathy is something that is definitely a lot of understanding today, also cross-cultural understanding, because, again, shipping is multicultural. You have various cultures, nationalities on board, and they all have different ways to be approached, different things they like if they want to be motivated, which again makes the world much, much more complicated, because if I only dealt with fellow Danish people, I knew exactly what to do, but now I have Filipinos, Indians, Greeks, all kind of stuff, which I all need to motivate in various ways. So that just adds to the complexity in the shipping industry, which is fairly complex in itself as well. Motivation, openness, clarity, I think that goes quite all with itself. The last one here is the empowering of seafarers. I think what we see is an increasingly micromanagement of seafarers. Like daily, if not weekly, I get contact. You probably do the same by companies who want to sell the new miracle product about safety. And the basic thing, most of them, is like, oh, you can go in, monitor the crew, what they do. They take this off, they take that off. Well, I don't want to sit and monitor my crew all the time. I've hired the crew for a reason, to take care of my ship. Obviously, there needs to be some help out there, because again, shipping is becoming increasingly complex. But the amount of micromanagement, for me, seems to be increasing, and it's something that both influence what was said before, keeping people at sea. Do people want to stay at sea for very long if they are micromanaged by cameras every day, checklists that needs to be double-checked, everything else? No, probably not. Imagine yourself in your office, if you would double-check whatever you do, then definitely that will not be the case. So the empowerment of seafarers, stop work authority was one of the first. It's very simple, but it can go further to like your safety management system, procedures, involve them in the making. Some say that's impossible because we don't have time and all that. Well, I've seen it in many shipping companies. Shipping companies run very tight schedules. So yes, it is possible. It just needs to be done in the correct way. And then at the end of the day, also your procedures don't need to be unnecessarily long. They just need to be the point as well. So when asked what keeps me up at night, I think it is the empowerment of seafarers, because it influences so many things. It influences the safety, the mental well-being. It influences how long they might stay at sea. Because again, when I started sailing, maybe that was just the culture. You told what to do, all these kind of things. There was not so much micromanagement, but young people today, they want internet and they want to have responsibility. And I think that goes for a lot of the different cultures as well. Some say some cultures in Asia, oh, they don't want the responsibility. That's not my experience at all. It's how to work with them in different ways, of course. And of course, when you have this kind of empowerment, the safety culture is building that up as well. You get the more mental, physical well-being. You get the better feedback and reporting, which is essential for your culture. Because at the end of the day, you can't do anything if you don't have that kind of feedback. Honest feedback is essential. And not just this, all is great, nothing to report. Obviously, they need to feel comfortable when they have to report stuff, and they feel that they are listened to when these kind of things happen. Obviously, again, now also all things like crew conference and all that, obviously we're a big supporter of, and as a P&I club, we attend them quite often, and always happy to do so, because it does make a better safety culture environment on board. Just in the end, I say this is a massive topic. If you want to know more, you can always go to the Loss Prevention website on Britannia. Our publication has actually been shortlisted for SAFETY4SEA Award. I think that voting have stopped now, so you unfortunately can't vote, but I also would suggest you to vote for our publications. But if you want to know more, obviously, always feel free to visit our website or contact us if there's anything more. We're always here to help. And yeah, there's not QA now, that's just our first slide. But I say the takeaway a little bit is the seafarers, the empowering of them is just essential, and it's more important than ever if we want to maintain safety culture, we want to maintain good seafarers, and also, again, safety needs to remain your top priority, even though the decarbonization is the one feeding most of the agenda. Thank you.